In this video, we are going to retell briefly one of the most popular anime, Tokyo Revengers, that has been released in 2021 and has been loved ever since. Sit back and relax. If you like the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. At the beginning of the anime, we're introduced to the 26-year-old boy, Hanagaki Takemichi, who unexpectedly learns that his girlfriend from junior high school, Tachibana Hinata, was killed from being a victim of the conflict between the Tokyo Manji Gang. Now, Takemichi is 26 years old and works in a shop and lives in an inexpensive rented apartment. Takemichi, returning home from work, was standing at the edge of the platform and he suddenly pushed off the station platform onto the railroad tracks. In the last seconds of his life, he sees the image of Hinata Tachibana. The next moment, Takemichi finds himself in 2005, where he was an 8th grader and was dating Hinata, who was very popular at school. He awakens in the train and sees his old school friends, Makoto, Yamagishi, Akun, and Takuya calling him to leave the train. Takemichi keeps thinking it's a realistic dream until he sees himself in the mirror. He realizes that he's in his 14-year-old body and now July 4th, 2005. After that, the guys go to eat, and there Takemichi finds out that then they would go to the 8th graders from the 3rd Shibuya school who called Takemichi and his friends weaklings. So the guys decided to punish them, and if something happens, Takemichi's cousin Masaru will help them, since he is the leader of the 3rd high school. Takemichi tries to understand what is going on. The guys get to school, but they couldn't find the 8th graders as they are on the field trip. Takemichi remembers that it was at this place that 12 years ago they were severely beaten by the 9th graders of this school, led by Masataka Kiyomizu. As Masaru goes, Takemichi recalls that Masaru was actually their errand boy and had lied that he was the leader as he was trying to show off in front of him. Takemichi and the others are then beaten up and informed that they will now be soldiers in the Tokyo Manji Gang. Takemichi remembers how their terrible days began and the reason why he left town after graduation. On the way home, Takemichi remembers Hinata and goes to her. Seeing her, Takemichi starts to cry and attempts to leave, telling her that he only wanted to see her. He remembers that he loved Hinata for her courage and cheerfulness. After a short conversation, he leaves and sits on some swings. He hears some guys harassing a younger kid and gets angry. Takemichi hits one of them and scares the other by a broken bottle and tells them to leave. Takemichi gives the boy advice to be confident and brave even if he gets hit. He learns that the boy standing in front of him is Naoto Tachibana, Hinata's little brother, who must die with her in 12 years. Takemichi, knowing that the boy will not believe him, tells that on this day, in 2017, he fell into the train tracks and ended up 12 years in the past. He says that on July 1st, 2017, Hinata and Naoto will die, so he must remember this day and protect his sister. Takemichi adds that if this is really not a dream and he returned to the past, then he will try to change the future. Takemichi then shakes Naoto's hand. After that, Takemichi suddenly wakes up in the present and learns that when he fell off the platform, he was rescued. It was an adult, Naoto Tachibana, who memorized the date and the words about his sister. Naoto said that he studied very well and became a police officer, but still could not protect Hinata, who still died. Naoto asked Takemichi to help him save his sister. This is the end of episode 1. Takemichi agrees to help him. Naoto explains that he is able to jump on the exact same day, but 12 years ago. After, Takemichi studies about the Tokyo Manji Gang for 2 days. Naoto says that he received information from his predecessors, who was undercover gathering information about the gang, but he was exposed and killed. Now, according to the plan, Takemichi must use his power to return to the past and prevent the acquaintance of the two leaders of the gang, Manjiro Sano and Teta Kisaki. If the two had never met, then the current Tokyo Manji Gang would never have existed and his sister would never have died. Naoto adds that the trigger for the time travel is their handshake. Then they shake hands. Takemichi opens his eyes and sees that he is in a fight where people are betting. There were custom betting fights managed by Masataka from this Shibuya school and he was a member of Tokyo Manji Gang. He made Takemichi and his friends his slaves. At that moment, the opponent hits him and Takemichi is knocked down. After Takemichi wakes up and the organizers of the fight beat him again. As Masataka and his men were leaving, Takemichi wonders if they are from Tokyo Manji Gang and that he would like to meet Manjiro or Tata. Masataka gets angry and beats up Takemichi, warning him not to mention Manjiro's name or he will kill him. Scared, Takemichi decides to go to Naoto and shake his hands, but he meets Hinata at the house. Seeing him beaten, Hinata says that if she was a boy, she would fight and protect him. Takemichi replies that he would protect Hinata and leaves. He can't let her die again. The next day in the school bathroom, Takemichi learns that Takuya, who is fragile, would be the next to fight. Akun tries to replace him, but Masataka is against it. Takemichi recalls that in the past, Takuya almost died after this fight. He decides to change this. Then the fight begins. Takemichi interrupts the fight. He goes to Masataka and asks him to fight him. This is the end of episode 2. Masataka agrees and immediately starts beating him. Takemichi refuses to give up. Takemichi tells Masataka that if he wants to win, he must kill him, as he is not going to give up. Masataka asks for a bet, and in the next moment, Ken Ruguji, the vice commander of Tokyo Manji Gang, known as Draken, appears and tells Masataka to calm down. Behind him is Manjiro Sano, known as the invincible Mikey, saw him and everyone began to bow down. Mikey immediately goes to Takemichi and after learning his name, said that they are now friends with him. Mikey approaches Masataka and asks him if he is running the fights. When he confirms, Manjiro kicks him in the face and beats him up. Mikey decides to leave because he thinks betting sucks. Draken tells Masataka not to ruin Tokyo Manji Gang's reputation. Takemichi's friends are excited that they would be able to get out of Masataka's slavery. Akun reveals that he was ready to kill Masataka otherwise. On the way to school the next day, Hinata and Takemichi agrees to go on a date. Further, Takemichi begins to think about what to do next and how to prevent Mikey and Kisaki meeting. Suddenly, Mikey enters his class. Takemichi comes out of the classroom and sees a lot of beaten up guys. Mikey asks Takemichi to hang out with them, but Takemichi says he's busy. When they try to convince him, Hinata thinks they are bullying Takemichi and slaps Mikey. Hinata tells them that if they were his friends, they wouldn't have taken him by force, and that if they are the reason he is beaten up lately, she will put a stop to this. After learning from Takemichi that they are friends, Hinata apologizes to Mikey and allows Takemichi to go with his friends. Takemichi asks Mikey why he likes him. Mikey reveals that he had an older brother who also fought strong people, and Takemichi reminded him of him. Mikey says he wants to create a new era for delinquents and wants Takemichi to go with him. Draken claims that there are many good fighters but few who stand up for what is dear to them. As he walks home, Takemichi thinks that Mikey is not the guy who could kill Hinata and why the Tokyo Manji Gang has changed so much in the future. While walking, he passes by a group of guys and it seems to him that he has already seen one of them. This is the end of episode 4. Takemichi and Hinata goes shopping and after Hinata decides to help Takemichi with his studies. Then Hinata's mother appears and Takemichi finds out that Naoto had changed a lot after meeting him and decided to become a policeman. After they go to the rooftop to watch the fireworks festival, Takemichi wants to hold Hinata's hand, but then realizes he is holding Naoto's hand, because of which Takemichi returns back to 2017 and tells everything to Naoto. Naoto realizes that the time spent in the past is equal to the time elapsed in the present. Takemichi tells that Mikey is not type of person who could kill anyone and offers to find him in the present and talk to him. However, it turns out that even the police could not find him. Naoto decides to look for traces of Mikey and in the process found Atsushi, who is now one of the Tokyo Manji Gang commanders. Since Takemichi changed the past, Atsushi became an important person. Takemichi found Atsushi's old number and was able to arrange a meeting with him. Atsushi has been waiting for Takemichi's appearance for a long time and they go to the roof. At the beginning of the conversation, they remember the past and Atsushi unexpectedly admits that he pushed Takemichi off the platform in the subway. He was supposed to die but was unexpectedly saved by Naota, as if someone had warned him about it. Takemichi is shocked that his friend did this. Atsushi reveals that he became Kisaki's soldier like everyone else in the gang, and they haven't seen Mikey for years. Mikey has changed a lot since Draken's death. Takemichi asks why Atsushi wouldn't leave the gang. He replies that he couldn't because he is afraid and adds that he always admired his friend Takemichi. Atsushi asks Takemichi to save everyone and jumps off the roof. On the other end of the roof, Teta Kisaki is seen listening to their conversation. At the beginning of episode 5, Takemichi decides to find out how Draken died. According to information from the internet, Draken died on August 3, 2005 during a conflict between Draken's group and Mikey's group. Since today is July 19, they still have 2 weeks to investigate all the details. Naota adds that the information might be wrong. Takemichi must now find out the real reason and prevent it. After that, they shake hands and Takemichi moves to the past. Takemichi opens his eyes to find himself in a karaoke room with a half-naked girl on him while she was answering the phone. Takemichi runs away. On the street, he unexpectedly meets Hinata. She tells him that he was acting weird recently. He is constantly changing from mature to a child. Then Draken calls Takemichi and tells him to come to Musashi Shrine as they are gathering there. Hinata decides to go with him, and there they are met by bikers who decided to beat Takemichi. But they are stopped by the captain of the 2nd Division, Takashi Mitsuya. He tells that Takemichi is a friend of the boss. Emma then appeared there and called Takemichi a coward who ran away after seeing her in her underwear. Hinata, upon hearing this, punches Takemichi in the face and leaves. It turns out that in this way, Emma tried to make Draken jealous. The meeting of Tokyo Manji Gang starts, and Manjiro wants to know the gang opinion on the conflict with Mobius. They attacked Captain Pachin's friend, raped his girlfriend in front of him, then took his money and hung his parents and siblings. Mikey, like a real leader, asks Pachin what they would do with Mobius. Pachin says he wants revenge and kill them. Manjiro then yells they are gonna crush Mobius on August 3rd. Takemichi begins to think about how he could find out about the conflict, because in this fight Draken is going to die. Takemichi decides to be Draken's bodyguard, but the next day Ken declines, so Takemichi decides to follow him. Takemichi finds out that Draken for Mikey is like an older brother who always guides and supports him. After, Mikey and Draken go to the hospital, where the raped girlfriend of Pachin is in intensive care. Her father shows up and yells at them, thinking that their daughter had suffered because of them. Mikey gets very angry, but Draken calms him down. After that, Takemichi understands why, after the death of Draken, Mikey changed a lot. Takemichi decides to return to the present and find out everything about the Mobius gang. This is the end of episode 5. Episode 6 starts with the story of Draken. He was born in Shibuya red light district. She didn't know his father, and his mother was a prostitute who abandoned him at the age of 2. At school, Draken was a real giant, and therefore everyone respected him for his strengths. He got himself a dragon tattoo. Once Draken lost to Samiyama crew, and because of this, he began to follow their orders. They tell him to bring Mikey from the 7th school, who defeated the leader of the Vatican gang. Draken finds Mikey, and he is much smaller than him. He wonders if he should fight him, but informs him that some middle schoolers wanted him to get Mikey to them, but he won't force him. Mikey agrees to go to them. When they get there, Mikey knocks out the leader. After, Mikey tells Draken that he wishes to be friends with him. After, we are shown Takemichi, who has already returned to the present. After collecting information, they go to talk with Asanai, the former head of Mobius. He works in construction. After talking with him, they learn that they didn't kill Draken, but the incident was a trigger that led to Toman's internal conflicts, and all was planned by someone. Draken was killed on August 3rd by the idea of someone whose name he refused to tell. Takemichi decides to go back in time again and will try to prevent the fight. He then shakes Naoto's hand and travels back in time. Takemichi wakes up on the bike with Atsushi and gets happy that Atsushi is still alive. After Takemichi goes to the warehouse, where there is an important conversation between Mikey, Draken, Pachita and Payan. Takemichi asks Manjiro to call off the fight with Mobius, stating that someone is plotting the fight, but he can't tell him how he knows. Manjiro states that they are going to fight Mobius as he made up his mind already. Draken offers to gather more information about Mobius, but Mikey refuses. In the next moment, the young head of Mobius, Asanae, appears with his gang. This is the end of episode 7. Mobius surrounds the Tokyo Manji Gang members. Asanae tells he heard that Toman was looking for a meeting with him, so he himself decided to find them and declare war on them. Takemichi, thinking about how to stop the fight, stares at Asanae. Seeing this, Asanae begins to beat him. Pachin then interferes and wishes to fight Asanae, and Manjiro tells the rest to just watch. Pachin loses the fight and apologizes to Mikey for his weakness. Mikey, putting Pachin on the ground, approaches Asanae and defeats him with one kick. After Asanae, grabbing a bottle, goes to Mikey, but Draken manages to easily stop him. Manjiro then states that whoever thought that Pachin lost to get out of there, or he will kill them as long as he is with Toman. They will never lose to anyone. From that moment on, Mobius become part of Toman as their boss is defeated. After everyone heard the police siren and started to run away, unexpectedly Pachin stabs Nobutaka in the back. Pachin apologizes to Manjiro and tells them to run as he intends to turn himself in. Draken takes Mikey and runs away, but Mikey doesn't want to leave Pachin alone. On the way, Takemichi falls to the ground, and a couple of days later he wakes up in the hospital with Emma next to him. She reveals that Draken asked her to pick up Takemichi from the street. Mikey and Draken also had a fight because of Pachin, and Toman split into two factions. She then started crying over Takemichi's lap, and at that moment Hinata walks in. Seeing how obscene it looked, she hit him in the face. It's August 1st. Takemichi spends couple days at home. His friends visit him and tell him that Toman is in bad situation. After Draken visits him and shocks everyone. He says that Pachin would be put in jail for 1 year and Nobutaka is alive. Takemichi asks him about Mikey, which makes Draken angry. Then, stating that he is done with Manjiro and Toman is splitting, he leaves. Later, Draken goes outside and meets Mikey, who also came to visit Takemichi. They start fighting, breaking and throwing Takemichi's stuff. Enraged, Takemichi decides to hit Mikey for this, but misses and falls into the trash. He begins to explain to the guys that they are splitting Toman with their conflict, and this is becoming a problem for the whole gang. Mikey then says that Takemichi has shit on his head and then runs away with Draken, as Takemichi stinks. Eventually, Mikey made up with Draken. This is the end of episode 8. Then everything returns to normal and Takemichi thinks that he stopped the split of Toman and saved Draken. On August 3rd, he goes to the festival with Hinata, Draken and Emma. Takemichi tries to apologize to Hinata, and when it starts to rain, he wants to kiss her, but Kazushi unexpectedly calls him. He says that even though Mikey and Draken are good now, some of Mikey's factions want to kill Draken. Takemichi apologizes to Hinata and goes around looking for Ken. He finds some members of Toman and Mobius passing a knife to Masataka and tells him to kill Draken. They soon see Takemichi, ties him up, beat him and leave. Then Hinata comes and unties his mouth. After they kiss, Hinata thinks Takemichi is special. After that, he goes to look for Draken and meets Mitsuya along the way. He says that when Mikey offered to get Pachin out of prison with money, Draken refused. Because of this, Pian hated Draken and is trying to take revenge on him. As a result, both Pian and Masataka and Mobius want to kill Draken. Takemichi remembers that Draken was killed near Musashi Shrine and they run there. Seeing Pian, Ken knows that he isn't happy with what happened and prepares to fight him, but suddenly a Mobius member attacks him with a bat from behind. When Takemichi and Mitsuya run up to him, Draken defeats part of the crowd, but due to his injury, he cannot fight well. As he's getting tired, he sits on the ground and tells Takashi that he leaves things to him. Then suddenly, Mikey appears. He realizes that Pian lied to him and thinks that someone else is behind all this. Hanma then appears, introducing himself as the temporary leader of Mobius, and Mikey attempts to kick him, but Hanma manages to block the attack with his hand. Hanma says that he organized all this in order to destroy Toman and brought with him 100 fighters. His goal is to kill both Mikey and Draken. Then all the members of Toman appears, and after a fight begins. While Mikey and Pian are talking, Takemichi is looking for Draken to protect him from Masataka. But he's too late. Masataka managed to stab a knife into Draken. Mikey sees this and asks Takemichi to take care of Draken. Seeing Ken is still alive, Takemichi puts him on his back and tries to carry him to a hospital. He is joined by Hinata and Emma, who called for an ambulance, but on the way they are stopped by Masataka and his squad. Draken, having regained consciousness, asks Takemichi to take the girls and run. Takemichi refused and says he would fight. He approaches Masataka and says that they haven't finished that fight with bats. Takemichi starts to attack, but Masataka stabs his arm with the knife. Takemichi doesn't give up and continues to attack Masataka. He bites him and manages to get on his back, starts choking him. Masataka eventually loses consciousness. However, the Masataka gang decides to continue the fight, and Atsushi and his friends arrive to help Takemichi. They start fighting but are easily getting beaten up. Hearing an ambulance's sirens, the Masataka gang decides to run, leaving Masataka behind. Meanwhile, Mikey and Hanma continue to fight. After everyone hears the sirens of the police and run. While everyone is running, Hanma tells Manjuro that he is about to witness the creation of the most sinister biker gang alliance in Kanto, and reintroduces himself as the first vice commander of Valhalla. Episode 11. After we are shown Draken, he gets cardiac arrest and the doctors start to give him CPR. They reach the hospital and immediately take him to the operation room. Draken is successfully operated on and he is alive. It is August 4th, which means that Takemichi managed to save the Draken and completes the mission. Week passes and Takemichi becomes a legend for stopping the fight. Draken hands him Toman's uniform that Mikey once wore and thanks him. After, on the roof, Takemichi meets with Mikey. He wants to know why Hanma wanted to destroy Toman and kill Draken, and how Takemichi knew all this. Mikey then wonders who Takemichi is, but then he not waiting for the answer and thanks him for saving Draken. Next, Takemichi goes to Hinata and gives her a 4-flower necklace. Then Naoto shows up, Takemichi shakes his hand and returns to the present. As he returns in the present, he finds himself at a job in the video store and finds no news of Hinata's death, and Naoto's contact disappeared. He sees the scar on his arm and he realizes that it was not a dream. After he receives a message from a beauty salon, Atsushi works there and Takemichi goes there. Then Naoto calls him. He says that Takemichi has succeeded and that Hinata is alive. Now Takemichi and Naoto go to meet her. Hinata is not at home. Takemichi has changed his mind to meet her. After leaving the building, he runs into Hinata and starts crying. Hinata invites him to her house and the three of them, despite of their past closeness, sit awkwardly. To lighten the atmosphere, Naoto suggests to take a ride. After Naoto is being called by police, Takemichi and Hinata are left alone and they decide to take a walk in the park, where Hinata was dumped by somebody whom she still has not forgotten. She was talking about Takemichi. He realizes that Hinata still loves him. He decides to think it over and runs to the toilet, sending Hinata to the car. Takemichi finally decides to ask her out, however on the way out of the toilet he unexpectedly meets Hanma. Hanma is surprised that Takemichi is not in the car since he wanted to get rid of both at once. Takemichi runs to the car where Hinata is sitting and another car crashes into her. Atsushi was the driver of the car and he again repeated the same phrase that he had said the previous time on the roof. He asks Takemichi to save them all. After his car explodes, Takemichi goes to save Hinata. She's still alive, but she is seriously injured. Takemichi realizes that she would no longer survive and, revealing his feelings, hugs her. After Hinata pushes him out of the car explodes. Now Takemichi decides to change the past until Hinata is saved and find a future where she is alive. So he plans to become the head of Toman. Takemichi gives his respect at Hinata's funeral. Naoto cries a lot as his sister died again. Hinata's mother approaches Takemichi on the street and hands him Hinata's favorite necklace, which was a gift from him. After Takemichi finds out that Akun's family was threatened, so he had to do it. To prevent the death, Takemichi decides to become the head of Toman, get to the root of the problem, and destroy Toman. Naoto agrees to help him. To understand why the present has not changed, they decide to find Draken. Draken turns out to be in the Tokyo detention center. He is sentenced to death. They meet him and Takemichi immediately asks Draken how he became a murderer. Draken replies that it is he who is to blame for everything that is happening now. Only things he regrets is that he didn't kill Kisaki. Draken recommends Takemichi to leave the city as Kisaki will likely try to kill him again. He said that Kisaki hates Mikey and now wants to take away everything Manjuro holds dear. After in Naoto's apartment, he says that they don't know anything about Kisaki and the police cannot find any leads to him. Takemichi decides to return to the past. After shaking hands, Takemichi wakes up in a public bathhouse along with Mikey and Draken. They go to the ceremony of nominating a new 3rd Division captain. Teta Kisaki is announced to be the new 3rd Division captain. Some of the members recognize Teta as being part of Mobius and are against it. Knowing this is the worst outcome what will happen with Hinata, Takemichi punches Teta. Everyone is shocked. Ken yells at him for interrupting the ceremony as he isn't even part of Toman. The captain of the 1st Division, Baji, appears and begins to attack Takemichi. It turns out that Mikey had temporarily expelled Baji from the meeting for a previous internal conflict. However, today Baji came to say that he is leaving Toman and going to join Valhalla. He left while Kisaki punches Takemichi in the face and knocks him out. Takemichi later awakens with Manjuro next to him. He understands why Takemichi doesn't like Kisaki. And Mikey explains the reason why he took Kisaki. Mikey starts telling a story about his childhood neighbor that always picked fights with him, but he always beat him. That neighbor is Baji, who punched Takemichi in the ceremony. Mikey created Toman in his first year of middle school along with 4 friends, Ken, Takashi, Paachin, and Baji. Mikey then asks Takemichi to bring Baji back. Takemichi agrees, but wants Mikey to kick Kisaki out of Toman in return. Mikey agrees, and if Takemichi proves that he is more useful than Kisaki, he will kick Kisaki out. If Takemichi fails, Mikey promises to kill him. After Mikey assigns Takemichi to Takashi's division. Next, Takemichi finds a charm that contains a photo of the young founders of Toman, and there were 6 of them. He doesn't recognize 6th person who has a tiger tattoo. Elsewhere, Baji meets with the person from the photo, Kazutora. The next day, Kazutora goes to Takemichi's school. At this time, Yamagishi was explaining Takemichi about Valhalla. He also explains after Kisaki joining Toman, he brought 50 Mobius members with him, and now there are 150 people in Toman. The rest of Mobius members joined Hanma and created Valhalla, consisting of 300 members. It turns out that Hanma is the second in command, and who the real commander is unknown. Therefore, their sign is known as Headless Angel. Afterwards, Kazutora appears and takes Takemichi to Valhalla headquarters for a conversation. Soon, they reach headquarters, which is in a closed gaming club with a graffiti of a headless angel. There are many fighters inside, and there is Baji too. He is beating Chifuyu, his 1st Division vice captain in Toman, in order to pass the test. Since Takemichi is the new member of Toman, he was brought in as a witness how Baji was leaving Toman. Hanma then welcomes Baji as Valhalla member. Takemichi, not wanting Baji to join Valhalla, asks why a founding member is betraying Toman. Baji replies that he is not the first founder to betray Toman. Kazutora is also founding member. After that, he begins to tell a story that happened in the summer of 2003 when they were 12 years old. As they reach the meeting place, they all see Toman's uniform for the first time and take a photo of the founders. After that, they all go to the beach on bikes except for Mikey, who was riding moped and makes them ride slowly, waiting for him. There they meet older biker gangs who wanted to smash Mikey's moped because they entered their territory. Mikey states that if they touch his moped, he will kill them. The scared gang leaves, saying they will crush them next time if they see them. Further down the road, Mikey runs out of gas. Baji eventually takes the moped to the gas station and everyone else goes to the beach. Meanwhile, on the road, those gang members attacks Baji. They want to burn the moped, but Baji protects it with his body. Mikey shows up and beats them all. Few days after, on the evening of August 13, Katsutora and Baji go to get a present for Mikey. Katsutora saw a bike in the store and decided to steal it to give Mikey for his birthday. Baji was against it, but then he agreed to help and they entered the store at night. Katsutora goes to open the gate, but suddenly the owner of the store appears. It was Shinichiro, Mikey's older brother. Katsutora doesn't recognize him and hit him from the behind, killing him. Kazutora is in a state of shock and mumbles he was doing this for Mikey, and he begins to blame him for everything that happened and says that he will kill him. After, they are caught up by the police in front of Mikey. Baji apologizes to Mikey and Kazutora still mumbles he will kill Mikey. Katsutora takes all the blame. Therefore, Baji was waiting all this time for Kazutora to be released, and after Baji left Toman. Hanma then hands Baji the Valhalla jacket and says that he is accepted. He also tells Takemichi to tell Mikey that Toman and Valhalla's fight will occur on October 31st in an abandoned car lot. Arriving home, Takemichi realizes that there is no way for him to bring Baji back. The next day, unexpectedly, he meets Baji's deputy Chifuyu, who has been beaten yesterday. Chifuyu explains to Takemichi that Baji has entered Valhalla to find out about Kisaki. Later, Takemichi goes to Mikey and Draken and tells them everything about Baji. Mikey replies that he understands that his brother's death was an accident. He forgave Baji a long time ago, but he cannot forgive Kazutora. After these events, Chifuyu and Takemichi decide to help each other. Chifuyu promises to help Takemichi become Toman's head if Takemichi would help him with his investigation. They start their investigation by talking to the former head of Mobius, Asanai. He says that once he was cruel and was left without a gang. Then Kisaki appeared. He helped Asanai to form the first gang in their area. Asanai realized it late that Kisaki had taken advantage of him, and it was actually Kisaki who wanted to kill Draken and take his place in. After Asanai was wounded, Kisaki approached Mika and offered to join Toman. Asanai couldn't change anything as he is afraid of Kisaki. After this conversation, Chifuyu realizes that the hidden head of Valhalla is Kisaki. After, Takemichi immediately goes back to the present and they, along with Naota, come to Draken. Takemichi asks him if Kisaki was the head of Valhalla, but Draken denies and replies that Mikey is the head. Since, on the 31st of October, Mikey killed Kazutora, who had previously killed Baji. Mikey wasn't arrested as Kisaki prepared a patsy for him. After that, Mikey became the head of Valhalla and Kisaki became his deputy. Episode 18. Now Takemichi thinks that in order to save Mikey, Baji's death must be prevented. He then goes back in time and finds himself in front of Hinata's apartment. She gave him exactly the same clover medallion he gave her. After that, we're shown a meeting between Draken and Kazutora, who still says that he wants to kill Mikey. Draken tells Mikey about this and he leaves. Then there is a meeting between Chifuyu, Takemichi and Baji, who says that he wasn't spying on Kisaki and he really wants to destroy Toman during the upcoming battle. Takemichi asks Chifuyu to live alone with Baji. Then Takemichi asks Baji not to die tomorrow. Baji asks to tell Mikey that tomorrow he will kill him. Later, Takemichi relays his words to Mikey and apologizes for not managing to return Baji. After that, Manjiro explains that they will be fighting with Valhalla tomorrow and they won't show mercy to traitors, but as he can't fight his friends, states to bring Baji back. Kisaki is amazed that everything goes according to his plan. Day of the battle comes. Takemichi and Chifuyu are the first to arrive at the scene of the battle. There, they see a lot of people and local authorities. The Haitani brothers, Skinny and Hansen from a gang, Ikebukuro, who will be the referee. Next came the Valhalla and Toman gangs. The representatives are Kazutora and Draken. The referee offers them two options, a 5 versus 5 fight or crowd to crowd. Ken states that Valhalla wants this fight, so they must decide, but has one condition: if they win, they will be taking Baji back. Kazutora gets angry and hits the referee, saying that they come here to kill them all. After that, the fight between two gangs begins. While everyone is fighting, Takemichi is looking for Baji, but he is knocked down. Mitsue and Chifuyu come to help them. After Takemichi also begins to fight. Meanwhile, Kazutora wants to hit Mikey, but Draken protects him. Immediately, Hanma steps in and pushes Ken away, deciding that they will be fighting each other, and leaves Kazutora to fight Manjiro. Mikey is surrounded by the best fighters of Valhalla. Fighters from Valhalla begin to attack Draken. Since there are more of them, Toman begins to lose. Draken protects weaker members. After seeing all this, Takemichi starts yelling that he will crush everyone and motivating his friends not to give up. The weaker guys get motivated and the battle continues. No longer needing to protect them, Ken goes on offense and starts beating Valhalla members one by one. Draken turns towards Hanma to continue their fight and sends him flying couple of meters with a single punch. Meanwhile, Mikey fights Kazutora and the two captains, Chombo and Chom. They manage to hit Mikey on his head. Mikey is bleeding but manages to get up and asks Kazutora if he is Kazutora's enemy. Kazutora begins to remember the past and replies that he went to Jui because of him, and naturally Mikey is his enemy. He believes that killing makes you bad guy, but killing your enemy makes you a hero. Angry, Mikey asks did he kill his brother because he was his enemy, after Mikey knocks down all of them. Then Choji appears and another captain of Valhalla with a detachment and taking clubs go to kill Mikey. Kisaki appears and knocks Choji down and says that his 3rd division will protect the commander. Then Baji suddenly appears and hits Kisaki on the head with the pipe. Kisaki's man, Hamada, then pushes Baji down. As Teta gets up, he tells him to kill Baji. Chifuyu tries to stop Baji, but fails. Next, Takemichi comes and charges him, holding him and yelling at Chifuyu that they need to protect Baji. He then notices that Kazutora is missing, and in the next moment, Kazutora stabs the knife in Baji's back. Baji pretends that it's just a scratch and grabs the pipe and runs to Kisaki. Approaching him, he begins to split blood and lose consciousness. Mikey reveals he thought of killing Kazutora the moment he got out of Jui for the death of his brother. Mikey is very angry and says that the battle is over. Hanma disagrees, but Mikey knocks him out with one punch. After the fighters of Valhalla run away, Mikey starts beating up Kazutora. Takemichi tries to calm him down, but Mikey continues beating Kazutora. Suddenly, Baji regains consciousness and goes down to Mikey and stabs a knife in himself. He did it so he wouldn't die by hands of Kazutora. Takemichi approaches him and Baji says that Kisaki is their enemy. He also says that Takemichi is very similar to Mikey's brother. Then Baji dies. Mikey continues to beat Kazutora and Takemichi yells at him to stop. After all, Baji gave his life so that Mikey would not kill Kazutora, and suddenly, a charm falls out of Takemichi's jacket, which he picked up in the temple. We're shown July 19, 2003, where Mikey gathered everyone near the temple as Kazutora was beaten by members of the Black Dragon Gang. Then Baji offers to create their own gang to take revenge on them. Everyone supports this idea and they go to buy charms, but there is enough money only for one. Baji becomes the keeper of the charm. Then Mikey remembers that it was Baji who created Toman to protect each other. They then hear police sirens and begin to leave. Kazutora tells them to leave as he will remain with Baji and tells Mikey that he can't ask for forgiveness, but he will carry the burden for the rest of his life and bows down. Toman wins the battle. Later, the battle is called Bloody Halloween. 2 weeks later, Draken and Takemichi visit Kazutora. Kazutora tells them he is likely to get 10 years. Draken gives him a message from Manjiro that he is still part of Toman and that he forgives him. Draken then brings Takemichi to his house. He lives in a brothel. They then enters Draken's room, where Takemichi sees many pictures of Toman and Emma. Takemichi realizes that Draken likes Emma. Further down the street, Takemichi accidentally sees Emma along with Mikey. He thinks that Emma is dating 2 guys at once, and suddenly Hinata appears with Naoto. They start following them, and then Yamagishi appears. He says that according to rumors, Emma and Mikey leave the same house every day. They think that Emma is cheating on both Mikey and Draken, and this might lead to another fight. Draken then appears and walks over to the table where Emma and Mikey are sitting. It turns out that Emma and Mikey are siblings from different mothers. Draken came to give her a present for her birthday. The next day, Takemichi and Mitsuya were supposed to meet, but Pien comes instead of Mitsuya. He takes Takemichi to Mitsuya. Mitsuya, in gratitude for saving Draken and helping him on October 31st, sewed a uniform specially for him. Later, they all go to the meeting of Toman. Takemichi shows up with his new Toman jacket. Mikey then shows up with Hanma and Chifuyu. It turns out that Valhalla now joins Toman, and the reason for it is Kisaki. Also, at Chifuyu's request, Takemichi is appointed as another commander of Toman. Takemichi understands that Kisaki won't, but he has a chance to make things right. Takemichi then goes to shake Naota's hand and returns to the present. Opening his eyes, he again finds himself in DVD store, but not as an employee, but as a buyer with a cool watch and a purse in his hands. Outside, a car was waiting for him along with the adult Yamagishi. It turns out that Takemichi is one of the top leaders of Toman. After they go to a meeting of the heads of Toman, where they discuss about business and how few of them were searched by the police. Hanma states that one of the leaders is a spy. Suddenly, Kisaki appears and Mikey is supposed to come. While everyone is waiting for him, Kisaki calls Chifuya and Takemichi to talk. During the conversation, he admits that 12 years ago, it was he who set up everything and he is sorry for the death of Baji. He then offers them a drink and says that he lied about Baji's death, since he is the one who killed Baji with the hands of Kazutora. After, Chifu and Takemichi lose consciousness. Takemichi later wakes up tied to a chair next to Chifuya. Kisaki tries to find out which of them is a traitor, and Chifuya says that he gave all the information to the police. Kisaki shoots Takemichi in the leg and kills Chifuya. After that, he points the gun at Takemichi's head. Takemichi cannot figure out what is going on. As tears appear in Kisaki's eyes, he says goodbye to Takemichi, his hero, and pulls the trigger. This is the end of first season of Tokyo Revengers.